Hey folks, my name's John and welcome to my bunker. If you're new to the channel, this is a series I'm doing on SHTF or survivalisting. I don't know what's the name for it. I did a ton of research into Yugoslavia and different conflicts and what did people do and how did they survive. And I made a book for my family because I'm like, well, what if I do all this research and something happens to me? What are they going to do? So I made the book. And what I'm doing now is just making a video series of all the stuff that I put in the book. This is the second video in this series. It's about what happens when a society collapses. You know, what are the warning signs that you should be looking out for? I'm going to just give a quick explanation on how a society is formed and held together. And then I want to get into like how it breaks down and what is society's Achilles heel? What's our weak point? And what are the signs that we should be watching for, you know, of how a social collapse would unfold? This is not meant to scare anybody. In fact, it should do the opposite. If you watch the news and the mainstream media and stuff like that, you know that it's all panic driven, right? And it is frightening. So I think if you watch this video, it'll help weed out, can I say this, some of the bullshit. There's really only there's one Achilles heel that makes it all collapse. And we're going to get into all that. And then we'll get into how it unfolds. So anyway, let's get into it. Every country starts with some settlements, then they install a government, and then they start connecting all the settlements. Like the Pilgrims come over and they connected 3 settlements, and it's all done with an army. And that's the key point you want to know here. It's all done by force. But fast forward, you have yourself a government. And before you know it, you have some pretty incredible transportation systems, nice trains, you got cars and highways and ways of getting around, and you have mail. You remember that expression, rain, sleet, snow, or hail? We deliver what you mail. There's a reason that expression was so important to the government. I used to think our country was held together by a social contract, by the Constitution and the laws, but that's not what keeps people together. People only obey the laws because they have to. People only obey the laws under threat of force. The police are the front line in enforcing the law and keeping everybody in line. If that should fail, the next line of offense is the army. They will call up the Army Reserves, the National Guard, or the regular army to keep people in line. So how does a society break down? Now, you'll see a lot of protests, and people fear them, but that's actually a sign of a healthy society. And it's always local, you know, they might be nationwide. Worst case scenario, they devolve into riots. And those can be pretty frightening, and they are scary and dangerous, but they're usually localized, so they're not really a threat to the general order of the public. You can even go to war and have, you know, the military coming in, rolling across your country, and that's not even going to break down the social order. Wars also tend to be localized in certain areas. Take Ukraine, for example. Russia and Ukraine have been at war at this time for like 3, almost 4 years. But the war is very localized. Look at that white area. The people who live like 100 miles west or 200 miles west in Kiev, they're just going about their daily lives. They have some interruption of service, but pretty much it's just the same as usual. It's the same in Israel. Israel's been under attack and in a state of war like forever, but the people in Tel Aviv, though they do have special accommodations, they're just living their lives like daily lives and going about their business. So here's the things you need to watch for, really. The yellow flag is when your electricity and communications start going out. Now, these can be very temporary and are on and off, as it is in Ukraine, and they'll come back on. When power and communication services are interrupted to the point where they disrupt delivery services and last mile logistics, that's a red flag. You really got to watch out for that. When delivery services affect the food supply, that's the Achilles heel of any country. Grocery stores only maintain a couple of days worth of food and supplies in their stores at any given time. So there's going to be delays, there's going to be interruptions, but when the food supply stops, everything goes to hell. Even the police have to eat. So there's no need to panic over periodic and intermittent supply chain disruptions. However, when you go to your grocery store and you find out that the door is locked and the store is closed, that is day one. That is SHTF. And that's the time when you need to decide whether you're going to stay where you live or you're going to bug out and go to some other location. The first day, everybody's still kind of panicking and figuring out what's going on. But on days 2 and 3, they start to figure things out. And there's going to be a run on any kind of store that has any kind of supplies, and people are just going to grab whatever they want. You don't want to be in the middle of that crowd. It's going to be a dangerous crowd and potentially violent, and you're probably not going to get much out of it. If the gas stations are still open and running, there's going to be an absolute run on those things. There's going to be cars everywhere, and they're going to take every gallon of gas that's left. Most people only have a couple of days worth of food in their house at any given time. So the first sign of trouble, they're all going to make for the roads and try to get out. And if you're not gone before they start, you're going to be stuck with the huddled masses. If you live in a city or something like that, it's going to be even worse because the traffic jams will be just crazy. People will use up half their gas just trying to get out of the city, and most of them probably have no idea where the heck they're actually going to go. Now on days 4 through 7, that's when things get really crazy. You're probably going to see the police come out to guard whatever stores are open and try to stop the looting if they come out, because the police might not have food either, and they might be looking after their own. And this is the time you're going to see real chaos on the roads. Now in week 2, this is when things start getting really, really crazy. Okay, you're going to notice all the stores are boarded up. Your town is going to be pretty empty, like there's not going to be hardly anybody on the streets. And if you do see somebody, they're going to be suspect. There'll be a lot of looters out there and people trying to get whatever they can, and pretty much anybody you see is going to be dangerous to some level. Now keep in mind, in America, there's an estimated 30,000 gangs in the United States with approximately 850,000 members. There's also approximately 200 militias in the United States, each one having anywhere from 500 to 1,000 members. And these people are all armed and trained. And the first sign of trouble, they're going to be gearing up and practicing what they've been practicing for years, and that's protecting their turf and getting what they need to survive. You don't want to come in contact with them. That's the kind of trouble you don't want. That's why it's so important to get out on the first day if you can. During weeks 3 and 4, everybody who's going to leave is already gone. You're going to notice the highways are pretty desolate, and probably there's not going to be a lot of fuel, so there's not going to be too many people who can get around if they wanted to. You're going to see a lot of vigilante groups and people protecting their own, even church groups and stuff like that. You know, they come together for the best purposes. However, after 2 weeks, if they run out of food, they're going to be no different than any other gang or mob that you're going to run into. They're going to be very desperate, and when people are desperate, they'll do anything. Now, in the second month, if some sense of order hasn't been restored, you're going to see black markets springing up. This is what's happened in other countries. And these are usually very dangerous places because there's people looking to rob you. And one of the primary things that people are going to be looking for is antibiotics, because during this time, people are going to start succumbing to dysentery. That's one of the number one problems people have in these SHTF situations and in war zones. They have tainted food and they have bad water and they get sick. And honestly, that's what kills more people than bullets and violence and things like that. A lot of people get sick. And unfortunately, during this time period is when you'll see a lot of people die. Things start getting better in the third month. Everybody's kind of figured everything out and everybody's going to survives. And by this time, the government should definitely be coming back in and restoring some sort of order, or have everybody relocated to some place that is in order. You're going to see power starting to get restored to areas where it was lost before, and there'll be hospital services and medical treatment and things like that available. Things will definitely get better, and you'll see people just start acting normal again, and people who were out and evacuated the area might start coming back to their old homes and things like that. All right, folks, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you got something out of it. You know, the key points here are keep your eye on the supply chain, okay? Don't worry about local troubles. Just keep your eye on the food. When the food stops, that's when things go south. Like I said, it's not something to panic about. I really don't think our country is going to have massive problems ever. And, you know, if we did have troubles, I think it'd be localized and we would be able to get around it. But this is what's happened in other countries, and that's a general timeline of how everything unfolded. So anyway, remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and if you didn't, just keep scrolling, folks. All right, peace out.